Good morning, CityLife Church. I hope you guys are keeping well. I hope you've had an awesome morning. My name is Dan, and I'm one of the pastors here at Turning Point Church in the south of the city. So we're with you guys in the city, and we are so excited that we have an opportunity this morning to minister into your church context. So you might be looking at the screen now saying, who is this guy? I've never actually seen him before. So my name is Dan. I'm the lead elder here at Turning Point Church, and my wife is Tammy. We have 3 kids, Haley, Holly, and Jake. And my wife is actually pregnant at the moment with our 4th kid, so we're a bit like the Brady Bunch. We've got quite a lot going on in our home scenario. And I sent a message a couple of weeks ago to Donnie. I think you guys would have seen it on the Sunday, where we wanted to thank you guys for your constant prayers over us as a family. I know at times you guys have prayed over us and other churches in the city, so we want to commend you guys before the Lord. So I have been into your church context a few times. The first was a Kia Taylor gathering, which I think was hosted towards the beginning of this year, which was on a Saturday evening, which we attended. Quite a few of us from our church came through. And then one of the other times was the Equip that happened in Lesotho in March this year, where Donnie and myself went up to be part of that Equip. So you might not have seen me because you weren't part of that context, but I definitely traveled up with them. And so we have a bit of a friendship. We have a bit of a journey together. One of the other really fun moments that we have spent together was last year, October, when the team came through. So Mark and the musicians and some guys helping out with the kiddies ministry and with youth came through, and we had an awesome weekend. We had a worship and muso workshop on the Saturday, and then Mark preached so beautifully on the Sunday with a bunch of your musos being part of the team for the Sunday worship. It was fantastic. And so how's it to you guys that are familiar with me? And to everyone else who isn't, I want to say a special hello. This was not our intention when we began planning at the beginning of this year. Donnie had spoken with me at one of the times we had had together to say, Dan, I would love for you to come through and minister in our church context. And part of that is coming through on a Sunday, Tans and myself, and ministering some form of word, and then spending time with you and getting to know you, getting to meet the real you. And I think a lot of the time we put a lot of emphasis on the word. But to be honest, you can receive the word from just about anywhere. I mean, just go onto YouTube and you can find some of the great words that have been delivered in the last couple of years at your fingertips, ready to go. As you just type it in, it pops up. More important than that, and something that we as part of NCMI like to foster, is this thing of meeting, of getting to know one another and being friends. I often like to think of it in this way. If you think of the early church, you think of the disciples. Those guys had it rough. They had to go through a lot on their own. I mean, they had Jesus for 3 years. All of a sudden, Jesus is gone. And now they're picking up the pieces as they discover this new calling, this new unfolding of the Christian message, the gospel that rings out through these ordinary folk who hadn't studied in this area, folk who didn't have the heart of an evangelist to go out and proclaim to everyone, except for the promptings of the Holy Spirit into their life. And you think, how did they stick together? How is it that they were so successful in populating this beautiful message to the point where today you and I stand, one of several billion who love the Lord and are committed to his name? And I like to think that it wasn't to do with any specific talent that one of them had. I mean, I doubt that they stuck together as a group because Thomas had the most beautiful voice, that he sang like an angel, and they thought, right, I'm part of this group because Thomas just blows my mind every time he sings. Or that Nathaniel had this incredible teaching ministry, that every time he got up and delivered a word, people just couldn't stop clapping. It was like a rally. It just went on and on and on because it was such a powerful teaching. Now, I believe the reason why they stuck together is because they were friends. Because they had something even stronger than a friendship. They had a bond as brothers. And today I stand before you with a bond as a brother to you, my brothers, to my sisters out there. I want to say this thing is more important than the words that are coming out of my mouth. This is about us meeting, and I really hope that one day we do get to meet. But by way of an introduction, I want to say that even if you don't know me, we are family because of the precious blood of Jesus. And so I hope that the words that I'm going to share with you in a few minutes really speak to your heart. as we discover this Jesus on this journey together as family. I think that is so key in this walk, especially in this season. See, anyone can share a word with you, but very few take the time to get to know one another, to meet up and truly become family. Because of what Jesus has done, that is our call as Christian believers. And so I hope some of that comes through today. So this morning, in preparing for this time, Donnie had asked me to share a word, and I've been praying about it and saying, Lord, what is it that you would like me to say to this beautiful church? And I feel the Lord saying over CityLife a bit of a reminder about your incredible fragrance. So I know we live in different contexts. I'm from Durban South. You guys in Durban North, you're a lot more Lani than us. You're a little bit more posh. And so when I say fragrance, when I say aroma, I think the first thing that would come to your mind is probably Chanel No. 5 or perhaps Calvin Klein. But it's a little bit different to that. I think aroma, the fragrance that someone has is so incredibly powerful. I think every single one of us have a memory in the past of either a granny or an auntie or perhaps your mum, and she had this incredible perfume. And you could be doing something in a room, and she would walk in from behind some door, whatever. You don't even have to turn around to see who's there. Just by that smell, you know who it is. And often it was such an encouraging, familiar smell. And I remember once or twice we'd be packed as a family in a car ride going somewhere. And when you've got your aunties and your mom in the same car, and there's just like this overwhelming aroma of perfumes going on, but it was familiar, it was family, and it was something unique to those people in your life who you loved and treasured dearly. I'm sure you have a memory like that from your past. And I think oftentimes that aroma, that fragrance, carries such a weight in our lives. But we don't often give important notice of it until it becomes overpowering. If you think of dating in the early years of courting a loved one, and you think of aroma and how important aroma is, especially before marriage, before, as a man you let one rip or whatever in front of your missus. Apologies if that offended anyone. But before that takes place, there's this real prim and proper, if I'm going out, I have to look perfect. I have to have the best clothes on. I have to have the best aroma. You make sure that your teeth are brushed thoroughly and that your hair is put perfectly before you go out on a date. And you think of what it would be like if that didn't take place. You can imagine if someone had a serious BO problem and you had to meet with them for a meal and people at other tables are almost turning and gagging on their whatever they're eating. It would be quite off-putting. In fact, I don't see that relationship actually going anywhere. It would be a quick, thank you for that time, it was awesome, cheers, and I'm out of here. And you think of someone who doesn't brush their teeth. Early morning, you're meeting them for a coffee, and it's just like the smell of 1,000 pit latrines coming out at you at an alarming rate. I hope I have not put you off your breakfast yet. But aroma is so important. The fragrance you give off is so important as a human being, and we've become accustomed to having a pretty bland aroma, if I had to put it that way. I think we're quite set in our aroma being okay. Today I want to remind us of that auntie, or that mum, or that grandparent who had that beautiful, sweet-smelling aroma. And I want to say aroma is not just your physical smell that you give off, your physical fragrance. Each of us have a spiritual aroma that is offered up as a beautiful, sweet sacrifice to the King of Kings. And I want us to nurture that spiritual aroma a little bit this morning. I felt that's what God was wanting me to say. So I hope you're with me on this journey. I hope we can really delve into our personal aromas. And the beauty of the church is when we come together as a family, it's like multiple aromas coming in and filling the house. And it can be smelt throughout the community if done well. So I really feel that this is a pertinent topic for this morning. So, the beautiful thing of a familiar smell is even if you're a stranger in the context, like I am with you guys now, When we've got the fragrance of Jesus on us, friends, it's familiar. It's a well-known smell. It's a smell we've smelled before, and it is sweet and beautiful to our nostrils. So I hope that that's the fragrance that's coming through this morning. And I want to tell you a bit of a story. You don't really know me too well, so I thought I would share a little bit of my past with you, a little bit of a story of a journey that I've been on a couple of years back now. So when I was a kid, I lived in the UK, and I moved back to South Africa, and I studied at a university in Durban. And then at the tender age of 19, I had been offered a job position as a project manager in a company in Dubai. And of course, when you're that young and people aren't really offering you anything around here, you grab it with two hands. And so I jumped at the opportunity and I went to Dubai. And I remember having left my hotel room, they'd taken me through to our offices. We had sat in this huge board room with meeting with all these other project managers and the CEO, and it was incredibly intimidating. In that moment, my aroma probably wasn't that great. I was stress sweating, if there were such a thing, and it was not pleasant. And then after the meeting, I was about to get into a taxi and go back to my hotel when one of the other project managers said to me, Dan, I know I don't know you, but I don't feel like you should have to ride in a taxi to go back to your hotel room. I'm actually heading in that direction. Could I give you a lift? Of course, for me, I was like, oh, the pressure's off. I get to finally talk to someone in some sort of context. And so this young guy took me down to his car. I got in the car, and we began to drive through to my hotel room. And although not many words were spoken in the initial part of that car journey, there was a familiar sound, a sound of a well-known worship song that was playing through a CD player. And I just happened to turn to him and say, wow, I really love this song. It's one of my favorites. And he said, sure, that's amazing. It's also one of my favorites. May I ask, are you a believer? And I think because we were in a foreign place and I wasn't very familiar with things, the first thing that leapt up inside of me was to say, yes, yeah, I am. I'm a Christian back at home. I was part of my youth group. And without a moment's hesitation, he said to me, wow, that's incredible. Well, do you know anyone in Dubai? And I said, no. And he said, I would love to come and fetch you on Friday morning and take you to church. Would you be up to that? And I said, yeah. I was a little bit nervous because I didn't know what sort of church I'd be walking into. But I said, you know what? I know you, so that's cool. That's great. We've met, and I wouldn't be alone, and I would love to form part of a church family. So awesome. I can't wait to see you. And Friday morning, early, he was there outside my hotel room waiting for me. Got into the car, went through to the church, had the most amazing service, and afterwards he offered to take me out for lunch, paid for everything, and took me back to my hotel room. Now in the story, I want to fast forward a couple of weeks, and it was Christmas Day, and I was sitting at this long table filled with all of these amazing people. We were at the Altringham's house. I know familiar to both of us was Mark and Charmaine Altringham, and I'd been invited for Christmas lunch. And I tell you, it was a spread of note. There was roast turkey and all the trimmings and everything being passed around from friend to friend. And I even remember receiving a Christmas gift from someone I barely knew. And it just blew my mind. Everything about that experience was a pleasing smell. These people barely knew me from a bar of soap, and yet they welcomed me in, made me part of their family, let me know that I belonged. And so that's my parable, that's my story that I wanted to share with you. It was an incredible, moving time when I was 19 years old. And I want us to take that story and I want us to look in a little bit of detail at 3 key lessons that I learned as a believer out of that story, and 3 key things that we can use as believers to enhance our aroma, our fragrance to the Lord. So the first key lesson that I discovered in that place was the lesson of love. Wow, love. Love in its true form is the most beautiful thing in the universe. It is so rare to find such a pure love like the love I found in that place, where people would be They would do anything for you, not because of what you can do for them, but because of who you are. You are a son of the Most High, and because of that, we are brothers, we are sisters in the Lord, and I will love you. I choose to love you. In John 15, we read these most beautiful words from Jesus, where he says this, starting in verse 12. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I love that Jesus throws in that bit. You are my friends on condition you do what I command. What does he command? He commands us to love. And so often we hear of stories of this person fighting with that person, and there just being chaos in some church families, and brokenness, and leading to breakaways and separations. And you read this and you say, how could that ever happen? How is it possible to have that scenario when you look at the command of Jesus to say, first and foremost, before you do anything else, if you want to receive my love, you, my friend, you need to love. You need to love your brother. You want my love? You want to love me? First, love your brother. And so I discovered this incredible brotherly love in that place. You know, each of us need to hold dear to this principle of loving one another again. I think this time of COVID-19 has made us all a little bit weary. I think we're rather hesitant to be around one another, let alone love one another, because each of us, even when open-armed, could be carrying something deadly to the other. But friends, at some point, this will pass. And through this process, you and I as believers cannot ever lose this amazing call to love one another. We have to continue to foster this love for one another, even in this time, in ever-increasing measure. Because by that, the world knows that we are his disciples. By that, the world smells this beautiful fragrance as we become more and more like Jesus. Our love of Christ needs to be like his love for us. It was the love of Christ for us that compelled him to the cross, even to death on the cross. How do we love? How much do we love? Point number 2, generosity. Never in my life had I experienced such an incredibly generous church in those moments. Never had I felt such generosity from complete strangers. All I'd done was show a bit of interest, and in return, another person had gone the extra mile. They had gone over and beyond anything that I could have imagined, driving halfway across a city to pick me up early in the morning, drag me through to church, afterwards pay for a meal, take me out, show me the city, become a friend. Such was the generosity. I showed up for a Christmas lunch. I was a bit nervous. I hardly knew anyone there. But someone had taken the time to go and get a gift for me. A complete stranger to me. It was an incredible moment to show the generosity that Jesus has over us and the generosity we need to work out as believers. Now, I understand that the context of Dubai and Durban, they're almost on opposite ends of the spectrum. But friends, our aroma needs to smell the same, even if it is worked out differently in our context. How generous are we with our time? What about our resources? Now, even if it's just a listening ear, it's not always that you have to give something extravagant. Sometimes it's as simple as a listening ear. And I really felt that in that place. Proverbs 11 verse 24 states, one gives freely, yet grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give and only suffers want. Friends, over the years, I've seen the hand of God open up with abundance, with favor, with delight over me and my family. Tams and I run a swim school. I think we mentioned it in a prayer point that we sent to you guys a few weeks ago. And this has been a very difficult time because for the last 3 months, Tams and I have had zero income. We rely solely on the swim school for our provision, and there's been nothing during lockdown. But not once have I got to the point where I've had to question and say, God, what's going on? What's going to happen? Because I know He has us in the palm of His hands. I know His faithfulness and His favor over us, and He has never, ever let us down. The fact that at our age we happen to have what we have is all because of the grace and the blessing of God and the favor He has over our lives. And so I'm not perturbed. I say, Jesus, everything is in your hands. And if God in this season said to me, Dan, I want you to bless, I want you to be generous in this scenario, I want you to spend time with this person, everything inside of me would say, yes, Lord, here I am, send me. I can't wait to be in that moment, because what I have is not my own. It all belongs to you. And He has been so faithful in the past. The track record is 100%. And I really felt that in Dubai. I felt that in that season, the incredible love and generosity of God over my life. Can I say, I want to read from Luke 6, verse 38 first. These are the words of Jesus coming out. He says these beautiful words, give, and it will be given to you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. And I mean, that is such an encouraging passage of Scripture. When you think about it, you think, Jesus, that you would be able to pour out such a blessing into our lives, more than what we could ever deserve. But can I also say on top of this, we actually, as believers, don't need another incentive to give. If there was nothing of a promise that God would bless, that His mercy and His favor would be running over our lives, if we had to spend the rest of our lives like Paul in chains or in captivity or taken from sort of one prison context to another, being stoned, being beaten, flogged in front of synagogues, in the front of all of our friends, being told that what we're saying is heresy and ridiculed, and really taken the full 9 yards. If that was our lot, friends, it would still be worth it. But how amazing, in the generosity of Jesus, He says, guys, actually, if you're super generous, if you love like this, if you give your all and then some, by that measure, I will give my all and then some in your life. Because I am generous and loving and kind, and I want to see your cup overflow. And so, even if that doesn't take place for you and our friends, it's okay. It's okay. Because the fact that Jesus died on the cross for us is more than enough. And I can't stress that enough. That is everything. But how incredibly generous in the Father's heart that He says, even everything that I've given you, I'm now wanting to give more. And so a generous lifestyle, a generous heart is so incredibly important. I love how even at the moments of Jesus' ministry, when clearly in His human form He is tired, He never once says to those following Him, away with you, I've had enough. Please, would you just leave me in peace? I need time to rest and recover. Can't you see the disciples are just exhausted? Now, every time, even in that state, He has compassion on them because He sees them as sheep without a shepherd. How are we in the way we respond to people around us? Are we super generous? Are we always open-handed? Are we always saying, God, everything comes from you. With the measure you give, I bless. I share out. Lord, would you come? Would you come and just have your way in this moment? And friends, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about money here specifically. I'm talking about time. I'm talking about a listening ear. Being super generous with how we disciple one another. Oh, it's so key. And I really felt it in that place. Point number 3, last point, is discipleship. Discipleship. I smelt the aroma of discipleship from the moment I met this guy. It was incredible. I literally sat in his car. There was a worship song playing. That was the starting point. Then I said to him, I like the song. All of a sudden, I'm at church on Sunday. Next thing I know, not even a week or two in, he's got me at home group with him. And from there, it was often multiple midweek meetings. And it wasn't a burden. It wasn't like, oh gosh, do I have to go to another one of these? It was a delight, friends. I couldn't wait. I was young. I didn't have kids. I didn't have this huge level of dependency. And I know as you get older and you've got all these responsibilities and these things that need doing, it gets harder just to sacrifice time like that. But in that moment, it was, wow, this is incredible. I can't wait to be there. And he would pick me up and take me to home group. He would take me to another midweek meeting. We would pray together. It was fantastic. And I loved every moment on it. I couldn't even wait. I thought, wow, you're coming at 6:30. I'll be ready from 6 o'clock. I'll be standing outside. Can't wait to see you again so that we get to go and become more like Jesus. And that is the true nature of the experience I felt there. Every single moment that we shared was one of being molded more and more like Jesus. I love the fact that we could come just as we were. There was no hindrance to who I am, who God's called me and made me to be in this moment. I could come and just stand as the person I was. And they loved me and they encouraged me in that moment. But there was a firm understanding that Jesus, in his beauty and his grace, has something far greater for me up ahead. And this was a journey from who Dan was to who Dan can become. And they walked with me hand in hand as I was molded and made more like Jesus, more into his likeness through this journey. Each of us being made more like Jesus, molded into his likeness as we journeyed together in this season. It was incredible. And can I say that I feel if I had to look across the world today, that the church of the 21st century, in many aspects, has lost the heart of this discipleship call. You look at the church in Antioch that we read about in the book of Acts. They were a similar church to the church I'm outlining here. They were a sweet-smelling aroma that filled the whole of the Mediterranean. If you have to think of how many churches were planted out of that church, how many churches were nurtured and cared for, and we're not talking about a church that was abundant and resources. They were like you and I, friends, but something inside of them had grabbed hold of them to say, actually, we need to be super generous. Actually, the discipleship call has to be the focus. Actually, God has called us to love as he has loved us, and we need to be extravagant in how we pour that out, not just in this community, but in the communities beyond. And can I say that the church of the 21st century, at least I've found, has become one of comfortable couch Christianity, where the role of the speaker or the leaders in a meeting is one of them giving words, them giving guidance, them giving grace, and the rest of us almost sitting and receiving. And I want to say we need to be ever mindful of the fact that not one of the times we see Jesus interacting with his disciples does he say, all right, guys, now is the time for you guys to park off. You've arrived. Okay, you've done the training, you've done the seminar. Now sit back and watch as the world goes on fire for me. No, he never did that. It was constantly about, okay, you guys, I'm sending you out. Let's see what God does. Wow, look at these testimonies. Look at these miracles that are coming back. Look at the lives that are changed and transformed. They come to Jesus and say, Jesus, we have a problem. We're in a remote place. These people are hungry. Must we send them away? There's no food. He says, you provide for them. Now, how am I supposed to provide? There's nothing here. This is an awesome opportunity for discipleship. You, in your faith, let's work together and create a miracle out of this moment. And so discipleship has to be at the focus of what we do, friends. And COVID-19's made that hard. I'm coming to you through a screen. I don't actually see the faces on the other side. I don't see how you're responding. I don't see God working out in your lives. And I don't see you taking this message and saying, cool, this random guy from Durban South this last weekend spoke at our church and it was cool. I'm going to go out now and I'm going to lay hands on the sick. I'm going to heal someone. But I'm praying that takes place. I'm praying that as you guys gather this evening or whenever it is to pray, that there are prayers and faith and conviction that God would do something mighty in your context. Because as we grapple with this call, we have to understand discipleship isn't an added extra. When Jesus gave a command, the chief of the command was love each other. And then as he goes, he says, now go and make disciples of all nations. We need to take the message forward. And in Dubai, I really felt that this was a lifestyle. You can't just become part of the church family and sit on your laurels. No, come help. You need to be part of the setup team. You need to be part of the tea and coffee afterwards. You need to become part of the muso team if you've got a talent in that area, or you need to be part of a home group somewhere so that you can be nurtured into teaching others and discipling others about Jesus. You cannot simply sit. You need to become. Because Jesus is the model. And if we're all trying to become more like Jesus, we're on a journey. And that journey means we have to start today with a first step. And we cannot stay in this state, friends. We always have to become more. So, discipleship is a beautiful aroma. Within the first few weeks of being there, I was a part of a family. And so why do I share this particular story with you? Well, one, because it's relatable. You guys know who the Altringhams are, and we share that as a common past. But two, because that is the sort of church that God has called you guys to. And so if I had to ask the question this morning, is CityLife a sweet-smelling aroma over the city of Durban? Can I take a moment and commend you guys? Because I want to say that you are. Friends, I want to say we've heard and felt the prayers that you've had over us as a church family here in the south of the city. Can I say we've heard the good report, as even though you don't have this huge pile of resources, every single week there have been teams, there have been those who have gone out, who have shared, who have partnered with other churches in the city, helping them to become more like Jesus and being a sweet-smelling aroma in their context. And can I say, I feel the Father's commendation over you to say, well done. So I hope that this word this morning has been an encouragement to you. Even in this time of COVID-19 and our separation, can we be stronger than ever because we have the aroma of God within us? Can we remember to love evermore, unconditionally, everyone who God has placed before us? Can we become a church that serves generously? In every way, as you gather and meet, would each and every one of you be a sweet aroma in the area of service and helping your leaders? And can we create in ourselves discipleship as a lifestyle? That discipleship wouldn't just be a Sunday thing or a midweek thing, but it would be a daily thing as we work out this beautiful aroma, and it would be a joy and a delight to meet together again when we can. And so I want to encourage you. I want to say well done for everything that you're doing in the city. You guys are counting. I cannot wait until Tams and I have the privilege of meeting with you for the first time for many of you in a couple of months, hopefully. So go well, be blessed, know that we're praying for you, and we can't wait to see you on into the future. God bless.